following program is a peer-to-peer advice show and does not diagnose mental health conditions. If you're seeking social services, please call or text 211 or go to 211.ca. Hello, listeners around the world on radio streaming and podcast services. This is It's Not Therapy. I'm Liana Kersner, and I am not a therapist, but I am your source for navigating the madness of mental health, using my top 10 sayings for going good crazy. This week, I just got another one of these Invisalign liners in, so I'm in pain. And this is It's Not Therapy was hard to say. And we're gonna do some real talk this week about teens and young adults. Because there's been a lot out there about how boys are falling behind and girls are riddled with crippling anxiety, and everything from cell phones to video games to COVID lockdown to porn to Andrew Tate and trad wives has gotten blamed. Gender ideology, groomers, vaccines, capitalism. Yet study after study shows that only a minority of screen users develop problematic use, and that stuff at the end was just all nonsense. That's why I said it. Like, there's nothing to any of it. You know what's screwing up young people? Really TLDR? That means too long didn't read. It's us. The adults in their lives. We're neglecting and coddling them and pressuring them in equal measures. We're subjecting them to sky-high expectations, shielding them from the ability to learn from mistakes, and generally making a hash out of the teen years because we want to treat teenagers like children and instant adults at the same time, and they are neither. And this episode, I'm going to give you 5 examples of how we're doing that. Hold on to your butt, strap in, this may be triggering. Now again, this is not all parents. There's some great parents out there. This is for information purposes only. If you see yourself in even one of these, make the corrections now. And if your kid is a young adult and still struggling, well, I'll give you some tips for that too. Okay, so here we go. 5 ways we are collectively screwing up our teens. You notice I'm including myself in this. All right. The first one is fake self-esteem culture that actually induces narcissistic tendencies. And this is one that I've learned to sort of adopt, but it's new. So it's a bumpy road when someone goes from the traditional, validations. You're so smart. You're so pretty. Oh, you're so, this, that, and the next thing. It doesn't actually do anything for self-esteem. Clinically proven. And I'm stunned at the fact that numerous mental health websites out there have narcissism explained as having too much self-esteem. Narcissism has nothing to do with self-esteem. Narcissism is about false superiority and entitlement. Just did a show about this. Check it out on the podcast platforms. Self-esteem is an enduring sense of self-worth, so you can handle rejection and disappointment in a way that narcissists cannot. Someone with healthy self-esteem doesn't need to be praised all the time, the way a narcissist does. But starting with millennials, parents thought that showering their kids with praise would lead to them developing healthy self-esteem, and it didn't. It led to a generation full of anxiety, dependent on external praise, and a ton of narcissist-style entitlement, even if somebody's got raging anxiety. I mean, look at all the stuff about politics where kids are just mouthing off about stuff they only have a passing understanding about. And if you don't agree with them 100%, you're a bad person. Entitlement, yeah. Instead of rewarding effort and a growth mindset, which are things that individuals can control, parents have bombarded their children with praise for innate qualities. Like I said, you're so smart. Researchers found that when children were praised for intelligence instead of effort, those children were actually less resilient in the face of failure, gave up more, and were more likely to blame innate characteristics that they couldn't control for the failure. In short, praising kids for smarts made them fear difficulty because failure made them feel stupid. Meanwhile, kids who were praised for effort were more interested in learning, enjoyed learning more, and were more likely to blame a lack of effort for things they failed at. Effort is something we can control. So those kids were more likely to try again than the kids who were praised for innate characteristics. Putting it bluntly, I know a lot of highly successful stupid people because they were tenacious. I know a lot of smart people who were super successful too because they were tenacious. And I know a lot of other smart people who squandered their intelligence because when things got hard, they found every way imaginable to blame everything but their own efforts. And of course, they gave up. Self-esteem, real self-esteem, is built by seeing your efforts eventually pay off, not hearing good job without being told why the job was good. Top 10 phrase, self-esteem cannot exist without self-compassion, and self-compassion can't exist without learning how to make a mistake. So while parents were praising their kids for brains, physical beauty, athleticism, and artistic talent, what actually builds self-esteem is praising stuff like effort, attitude, responsibility, commitment, discipline, focus, compassion, generosity, respect, good decision-making, and so on. Things that are skills that need to be developed, not innate qualities. And if you're going to praise your kid for like compassion or kindness, make it behavior-driven. That was kind. Not, oh, you're so nice, because then that's innate, right? Okay, top 10 phrase. Healthy goals are based on things you can control. Skills are developed. They're not innate qualities. Now, that was millennials. For Gen Z, it was worse. People blame COVID lockdowns, but sorry to break it to you, the trends we're seeing were forming starting in 2015. COVID was called COVID-19 because it hit in 2019. Now, 2015 was right when the oldest Gen Zers were hitting adulthood. And if you've ever been on the end of the Gen Z stare, that vacant response some Gen Zers give in response to even the simplest questions, yeah, you know it's a thing. Reasons for the Gen Z stare vary from crippling anxiety to utterly brazen entitlement. But what it comes down to is that either the Gen Zer in question hasn't learned how to make simple choices because their entire childhood and adolescence was completely bubble wrapped, or they've made the calculation that not answering at all is better than getting the wrong answer. Some of them say they Gen Z stare because the question they were asked was stupid, but I don't buy it. That's just how some Gen Zers have adapted to cover up their inner raging insecurity. I find with younger people that if I funnel choices instead of doing an open-ended question, it works much better. For instance, do you want Chinese or Mexican food for dinner? As opposed to, what do you want for dinner? You may get, I don't want either Chinese or Mexican. Well, what do you want? Italian. There we are. Choice made. Boom. It's just simpler, right? Rarely, I do get a 20-something with a serious attitude who does get insulting. Sometimes teenagers do, but teenagers have mouths on them, right? But I find these, mercs with mouths, they're quickest to run to their parents to solve their hurt feeling problems. Parents, if your 20-something is still coming to you to solve conflicts with their teachers, advisors, workplace, friends, or family, you are coddling them. More on that in a bit. I've met a few very centered, well-rounded people who are currently in their teen years. I worry for them a little bit, but quietly. Most teens and young adults today are either too entitled to really work at things or too anxious to really work at things. Either they've been raised to think they're innately such a prodigy that they shouldn't have to put in hard work because, they're smart, talented, hot, and other people aren't. or they've been raised to catastrophize everything they contemplate attempting because they're terrified of making a mistake, and that terror really comes down to disappointing their parents. One of my younger clients calls it good kid syndrome. Their identity is so wrapped up in being the good kid that they don't want to attempt anything that might make a fuss or that they might struggle with and get upset. So now they feel like a terrible disappointment anyway because they're locked up. They're getting better. They're taking strides, and you see the difference. Now, this might be why your son's current career aspirations are YouTuber and Twitch streamer, but he hasn't made a single video, or your daughter is having an absolute meltdown before absolutely every exam because if she fails, her life is over. And I'm leaving non-binary kids out of this one because every creepy weirdo with an obsession about children's genitals is suddenly very interested in girl sports right now. These kids are so under the microscope currently, so constantly negatively judged. My God, the language being used is horrible. Of course, these kids are riddled with anxiety. Everybody needs to stop. Like I said, collectively, we are doing this to teens. Now, for these other things, a reminder, the problem is us, adults. Now, it might not be you, parent. You're like, I don't do any of this, and my kid still could be a grandparent or other adult role model who is undermining or overriding your good parenting with the brainworms. The kids didn't train themselves, unless you've neglected them to the point that they're raised by the internet. Oh, but you can't get them off their phone. It's always on it. I'll tell you how to solve that problem later in the show. But for now, I'll give you this information. An international survey conducted by French social psychologists found 4 key factors internationally impacted self-esteem, cross-culturally. One is earning social status. Note that I said earning, not just being handed it. Fulfilling one's duty. That is, not having everything done for you, including your laundry when you're pushing 30. Controlling one's life. If your adult child can't do laundry, how can they feel in control of their life, right? And benefiting others was the 4th one. This was true regardless of the person's own stated values surrounding stuff like, I'll get mine, they'll get theirs. Even the most selfish person in the world likes to feel like they're serving their community, right? They're the people who, I have all these people that I employ. Same thing. Yep. Hence my top 10 phrase. Core values are more important for relationships and common interests. The world does not exist. The people you are around every day, that is a young person's world. If you're constantly being told you're selfish, stuck up, ungrateful, in the way, useless, worthless, too much and not enough, what you think about yourself is not enough to override those greater cultural forces. So if a kid grew into a teen with no responsibilities because they were told what to do every second of the day, their self-esteem is going to suck. Especially if they're treated like a child until they turn 18, instead of being given increasing amounts of autonomy, including doing some things that their parents don't love. If you're trying to program your child into being your vision of perfection, you're going to raise someone more akin to an entitled narcissist who can't form social bonds than a young person with truly healthy self-esteem. Top 10 phrase. Stop trying to be perfect. Perfect is a lie. Let your kid do a load of their own laundry every so often. Teach them how to sort it and don't sweat it too much when that white shirt comes out pink because it was washed with reds. Your teen will know it was a screw up. Trust me, they'll learn. Similarly, let your teen try to cook and reward the effort, even when it doesn't come out great, while suggesting things they can do to get a better result next time. It's not wasting food if you throw out a well-earned culinary disaster and throw in a frozen pizza because it was a learning experience. Seeing their skills improve legitimately, not you did great even when they know they didn't. Seeing those real skill improvements will build their self-esteem. So will volunteering in the community at their pace and in the way they want to, not the way you parents set up. And setting reasonable expectations for them that they can meet. Stressing to them that their opinions on things matter too. I'm getting into 2 other ways people screw up teenagers. So let's take a break and come back with those. Do you have a story you think would be good for the show? Are you interested in sponsoring the show? Liana at nottherapyshow.com. Nottherapyshow.com is my website. The first thing was my email at nottherapyshow on socials. And I will be at the link in Sutton this weekend with a mental health event. Check that out online. 5 ways you're screwing up your teenager on It's Not Therapy when we come back. The following program is a peer-to-peer advice show and does not diagnose mental health conditions. If you're seeking social services, please call or text 211 or go to 211.ca. We're back in It's Not Therapy. I'm still Liana Kirsner. I'm still not a therapist. We're still talking about 5 ways you're screwing up your teenager. And the first way we talked about before the break was, trying to build self-esteem based on innate characteristics, which doesn't actually build self-esteem. It can lead to narcissistic entitlement or raging anxiety. The second thing you're doing to screw up your teenager, possibly, is further undermining all of that ineffective self-esteem building. What are you doing? You're leaping in to fix their problems for them instead of helping them solve their own problems. Everyone who deals with young people, myself included, has had an experience, usually multiple experiences, of a young adult who is still running to their parents to solve their problems. And I'm not talking just going for more emotional support because somebody dumped them. No. I'm talking about mom calling to sort things out with their work manager or because they didn't like how a business decision went. Yeah. And lately, I'm finding this happens much more with young men. Let's not get into stereotypes of coddled girls. Often, the young man's mother is very nice about it. But instead of taking my advice about how to proceed, they beg me to do something emotionally validating because, they know their kid. And I do it because why not? And 100% of the time, I don't hear back from the kid. Because by the time a parent is involved, that adult child has just regressed to being a straight up child. What I see in adult children when parents get involved, no matter how well-meaning it is shame. Now, this is different from the one absolutely lovely dad who contacted me to ask what he could be doing to help his son along, helping his son with his problems, not solving the problems for his son. I got permission, from the son to talk to his dad. And, we worked on some improvements going forward. Note that I got the adult son's permission. Because in order to feel like they can successfully adult kids need to feel like they have some degree of autonomy and control. And this process ideally begins in the teen years. The shrieking classes are fond of calling teenagers children these days, but after the age of 12, your child is an adolescent, and that is a distinct phase of development. Teens need increasing amounts of freedom between the ages of 18 and 25 to learn to thrive as adults. As the parent of a child, preventing unnecessary suffering is a good goal when they're actually kids. The goal of parenting a teenager is preparing that teenager to be good adult decision makers. And that means gradually letting that teen do more and more on their own as a reward for showing responsibility and good judgment. You don't just cut them adrift because then they'll feel neglected, because that is neglect, but teaching them to do it for themselves instead of always coming running to you. That's invaluable. And okay, if they make a really bad choice, rescind the freedom for a while. Maybe they weren't ready. It's trial and error. Every teen is different. Every family is different, right? But if you take back that freedom, give them a clear path to earning back your trust so they can get the privilege again. Have them actually do something, not just, you're grounded for 3 months or 6 months or forever, right? No, give them something to earn it back. Learning how to fix mistakes is a huge life skill. Picking up when someone said, look, I'm upset with you. This is what happened. This is what I need you to do to fix it. It's invaluable. And that's how you begin teaching it in the teen years. But some parents today are so terrified of the pedophile panic, with groomers looking around every corner, that they don't give their teens that necessary gradual freedom. And they fight all their battles for them. And what ends up happening is your teen is just going to hide things from you. And surprise, surprise, that's going to make it more likely that they'll be easy pickings for a predator. They target kids who don't have great relationships with their parents. If your kid is communicating, that's good. Even sullen teenagers tell you stuff. If top 10 phrase, you listen twice before you talk once. Similarly, when you're intervening with your adult child's college professor's employer or other mentor, yeah, you're getting in the way of your child learning to stand on their own. And especially with employers, especially with business mentors, that's going to make those people take a huge step back because you're skywriting that your child is not ready for adult responsibilities. That might be why Gen Z just stares instead of answering questions. They might be waiting for you to answer for them. Obviously, this isn't true across the board. Parents, I love you. There are great parents out there, right? But I'm struck by how many parents of high school and college age kids totally underestimate what their kids are really capable of. So the kids end up thinking they can't do it either. And when they're eventually forced to stand on their own with no prep, it's a hellishly traumatic experience. Lots of people in their 20s and 30s are walking around in a panic right now because they feel like they're behind their peers in basic adulting. And in nearly every case of that I see, the parents don't respect their adult children's boundaries in multiple ways. Top 10 phrase paraphrased. You don't have to like your child's boundaries, but you do have to respect them. You can't just barge into your college-age student's dorm room like they're still a 13-year-old on their phone after device curfew. That is not your house. That is a college dorm room. Start before that. Let them fail at stuff when they're teens. Let them try again and succeed. It's okay. Don't throw them to the wolves. Don't go, this is your problem. You're grown. No, talk to them. Guide them. Even go with them sometimes if they want you to. But let them take the lead. Let them do the talking. Sit there in silent support. Don't do it for them. Flip side of that, and another way you're screwing up your teen, is if you freak out when they come to you when they've made a mistake or when they're doing something you don't like. Like that load of pink laundry I mentioned because they didn't separate the colors. Your teen knows they screwed up. They know they screwed up if they wrecked the car. They know they screwed up if they got drunk to the point that they threw up or had a bad trip on drugs or did something else worth being embarrassed or ashamed of. Consequences, those will help them learn. But freaking out is putting your need for control as a parent over getting ideal outcomes during hard learning experiences. Okay, you're disappointed, but what did they learn? This is when parents tend to suddenly become extremely religious, conservative, or old-fashioned. And if you're raising a teen for the world of today, not a TV version of the 1950s that never actually existed, I'm old school. I know that you have to parent for the times we're in, not the times you wish we were in. So for instance, if your teen wants to try on pronouns you can't pronounce for a while, trust me, You'll bungle them accidentally enough times, and that teen will realize that pronouns are words with commonly understood meanings, not a nickname they're calling a pronoun. Trust me, I've seen it happen a ton. But okay, you're not made of stone. You're not inhuman. There are times where you're going to lose it, right? There are times where your parents being so upset is an appropriate consequence. Like, if you catch your kid sending revenge porn of another teen, if you blow your stack there, I'm going to say that's okay. That is human. But don't call your teen names, okay? For God's sakes, don't throw things or physically attack them. If you have a tendency to bully your kid, that's why they're bullying other kids. And yes, I've heard stories about that behavior of like the mom freaking out and slapping a young man when he screwed up. Again, focus on the poor behavior, not innate characteristics. They might have done something dumb. They are not stupid, right? And again, set up a plan to make things right. You don't have to hide from your teen that they did something wrong. Absolutely tell them. If you don't, someone like me has to do it as an adult. And my God, there are some seriously damaged people out there, especially regarding the opposite sex. Teach them how to make it right. The relationship might be done. It likely won't ever be the same again if they do something that's that much of a violation. But there are ways of making it right without getting it back. That's where you come in modeling behavior as a parent. If you do lose it when it might have not been the best thing, own that. And set an example of apologizing. Being a parent right now is really weird. There's a lot of concepts, a lot of terminologies that didn't exist in the mainstream 10 years ago. Every 10 years that has happened, right? Setting a good example for that core behavior, owning when you're wrong, making it right, is better than 1,000 lectures about good judgment. Consent is a huge issue in the lives of teens right now. And the best way to teach your kid consent, and I am talking our boys here, as well as all the other kids, the best way to teach your kids consent is to be concerned about theirs. The more you force them to do things for their own good, especially when you're doing it aggressively, the more you're teaching them that this is what people do when they care about each other. They force them to do things. They don't care about their consent because they know what's better. Instead, recognize that no, they don't have to go to every single family event. It's better you stay home if you're going to be a grouch, right? They don't have to hug every relative. They don't have to perform that song you think is so cute on cue. Enough about my childhood. Ugh. God, I felt like a trained monkey every time. Do this song. Guess what? I had to learn what consent really looks like in my 30s. I had to learn that I was letting people walk all over me, even though I frequently got called the B word, because I was all bark and no bite. Topic for another show. Consent. Writing that down. Consent as topic. Okay. On this show, we're going to go to a break and come back with the fourth way you might be screwing up your teen. Questions, comments, concerns, any feedback. Another way you're screwing up your teen. Liana at nottherapyshow.com is my direct email. Nottherapyshow.com is my website. At nottherapyshow on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. Check out my social media. I'm going to be doing some public events coming up in the Ontario area. If you're listening around the world, never mind. Thank you. Teenagers, we be screwing them up. More on that on It's Not Therapy. Back in a bit. The following program is a peer-to-peer advice show and does not diagnose mental health conditions. If you're seeking social services, please call or text 211 or go to 211.ca. back in It's Not Therapy. I'm still Liana Kersner. I'm still not a therapist. We're still talking about 5 ways you might be screwing up your teen. And the first 3 were: 1, trying to build their self-esteem based on innate characteristics, which doesn't build real self-esteem. It can lead to narcissistic entitlement or raging anxiety. 2, leaping in to fix things for them instead of helping them solve their own problems. Go with them. Don't do it for them. Number 3, freaking out when they try to talk to you about something difficult or when they tell you they made a mistake. Do not take your parenting cues through your craziest Facebook friend. Bad crazy, mind you. Number 4 is putting too much pressure on your teen. This may be obvious, and yet some parents' anxiety spikes when I bring that up. Then I tell them how much money could have been saved in 15 years of therapy bills for me, starting when I was 15. If people had just laid off a little when I was 15 and 16 and 17, I was an A+ student. I didn't get into much trouble. I did extracurriculars up the wazoo. The edgiest thing I did was weird art projects, okay? Okay, I was also advocating for marriage equality in high school. This was in the 90s. Back then, that was practically satanic. It wasn't rebellion, though. I believed it then. I believed it now. That was just me. That and, white ribbon stuff. I grew up in, high school was L'École Polytechnique. That was intense. And my parents weren't thrilled about that stuff. One of the things my parents did not give me a huge hard time about, I really have no idea why, but they never gave me a hard time about video games. And, based on where I ended up and the things I did and the stuff I still love today, that was probably pretty influential. What else was influential? Telling me I was so beautiful, then criticizing when I ate anything fattening. Again, I was a kid in the 80s. I was a teen in the 90s. I was in Weight Watchers at the same time I was in therapy. I was also in competitive dance at that point. Yeah, I was a chunkier kid. I always tended to put on weight before I grew. But when a kid is doing 3 hours of dance, 3 to 5 days a week, plus cheerleading, plus theater club, are you surprised at all that I ended up with an eating disorder by the 8th grade? Yeah, we have the body positivity movement now. South Park kind of nailed that one. Now we've replaced that ew gross, you're fat of the 80s and 90s with teens being terrified of aging. You're fat is now okay, boomer. And I almost guarantee that it's not just the internet. It's not just peer pressure. It's because they're seeing older family members obsessed with aging. The Sephora teen influencers don't help, but apologies to Sephora. That's just what it's called. There's a deeper issue with the kids who were dropping $300 on retinol-based products and their parents don't know. That's a sign that there isn't enough structure, not enough supervision there. But teens are pretty savvy, and they see where society's cruelty gets directed. So on a show that's very judgy of parents, I'm not going to judge parents on this one, okay? It's complicated. But what's not complicated is, for teen girls, it's, ew, old now. Well, fat and ugly haven't gone away. Trust me, I'm on Instagram. But teen boys have their own issues. And again, non-binary kids, oy vey, those poor kids. Teen boys, though. What is the ew, old, ew, ugly? For teen boys, it's sexual prowess, sexual experience. The pressure to not be an incel starts with boys shockingly young. And I know people who say that's not what incel means. But incel is literally a contraction of involuntarily celibate. Boys get called an incel when they're 12 or 13 and they look it up and they see involuntarily celibate. And if you're a parent who can't manage to talk to your son about this stuff because you're uncomfortable with it, because you've got hang-ups. He's going to get his information from elsewhere because the pressure on boys this way is intense and kids need support. We very, very much need to take the pressure off girls to be hot and off boys to be sexually active and off non-binary kids to be binary, right? Like, we need to teach all teens that people who primarily judge others based on these very superficial things are looking to control you, not support you. Lashes don't make you a woman and sex don't make you a man. Again, behavior and character matter, and happy teens feel like they can go against the popularity grain a little. Remember I said I was a weirdo art project kid in high school? Total weirdo. But you know, it was good because I was so weird. Like, you know, when people are so uncool, they're cool. Yeah, I was that weird with like super gothy dance performances to stuff like Depeche Mode at Jane and Finch. All right. The cool kids were kind of impressed at what the whole thing was. That was the beginning of me discovering going good crazy. And here we are. But we gotta take the pressure off. And people are afraid of their kids slacking. And the parents are under pressure too. I get it. There's hyper competitiveness everywhere. Education, sports, college. Just talking about it is raising my cortisol. But really, you can't see into the future and see the path of your kid's life. You don't know. There are plenty of people that go to Harvard and Yale and, you know, don't become a Fortune 500 businessman, right? Figure out what is enough and be content with that. Kids are not extensions of your ego as parents. They are not proof of your validity to society. The best job you can do as a parent is to raise a happy kid with healthy self-esteem. And if they fail a test, all right, find out why. What are we going to do about it? That's okay. Despite what people say, like, no, failing one test is not going to, deny you the best schools. Not coming from a rich family, Will. Ooh, that was a bit of bitterness based on personal self-experience. Anyway, we're going to pause because, of course, I have to leave the fifth way you are potentially screwing up your teenager. We are all screwing up teenagers in this way. We're all complicit. This is a cultural thing. When we come back, questions, comments, any feedback, Liana at nottherapyshow.com is my email. Nottherapyshow.com is my website. At nottherapyshow on social media. Yes, there's a lot of cat stuff on my TikTok. If you like that, check it out. Not Therapy Show on TikTok, Instagram, all that stuff. Back after this, how we are all of us grown-ups are screwing up teenagers when we come back on It's Not Therapy.
The following program is a peer-to-peer advice show and does not diagnose mental health conditions. If you're seeking social services, please call or text 211 or go to 211.ca.
We're back in It's Not Therapy. Still Liana Kirshner, still not a therapist. We're getting to the final segment of the show, and I'm like, whoa, tired. But we're doing it, right? Doesn't have to be perfect. Perfect's a lie. Stop trying to be perfect. Right. Okay. We are still talking about 5 ways you might be screwing up your teen. And we've done 4 to this point. Number 1, trying to build their self-esteem based on innate characteristics doesn't build real self-esteem. It builds narcissism or anxiety. 2, leaping in to fix things for them instead of helping them solve their problems. Go with them, don't do it for them. 3, freaking out when they try to talk to you about something difficult or when they tell you that they made a mistake. It's human, but there are limits, right? Number 4 is generally putting too much pressure on them. And yes, there's a lot of overlap between, 2, 3, and 4. Parenting's tough because we're works in progress. And so we don't have it all figured out. And now we have to raise these kids. And I say we, even though I don't have kids of my own, because I am super invested in the lives of my friends' kids. I am that, cool person who really helps out at Christmas and will just go to the mat because I know how important that extended network of adults is in a kid's life. That, do you have children? Crowd just doesn't get it. And, I've done the reading. I've done the training. We see the data is clear about what kids and teens need. And the number one thing we're doing to screw up our teens is the thing that will get them off the horribly toxic phones, get them off playing video games for 8 hours a day. Oh my God, I've got your attention now, don't I? What is this magical thing? Unstructured, or lightly supervised time to do their own thing. Parents are like, no, not that. Child abduction. Yeah. And we've been hearing about child abduction since, I was born in the 70s. Stranger danger was a thing in the 80s. And we still walked home from school in the 80s. And strangely, stranger abductions are very, very rare. It's usually an estranged parent, a non-custodial parent that snatches a kid or someone else already known to a kid. But yeah, recently I read an article that they did a survey of young people and asked them, would you prefer to play outside, unstructured, play video games, unstructured and unsupervised, or have like a play date, structured, supervised, the safe way for kids to play, right? Shouldn't surprise you what the kids said, or maybe it will. Kids actually said they preferred to play outside provided it was unstructured and unsupervised. Now, that does not mean you just leave your kid for 8 hours straight. You peek in every so often, but you let them do their thing. Be in earshot, but don't be standing there hovering over them like a prison guard, right? Unstructured time lets young people figure out who they are. The only moments of true peace I remember as a teenager was when I got home from school with my sister, and my sister went and did her thing, and I just had a couple of hours to do whatever I wanted. I had opportunities sometimes to go play with friends or things like that, and sometimes I did hang out, but sometimes I just went home and I enjoyed that hour and a half, 2 hours of quiet before, the insanity started for the day when everybody was home. And people may be aghast at that. Oh my God, they left you alone. And I started being left alone at the age of 12. And that wasn't fun because, look after your sister. She didn't listen to me. But still, even with that downside, I really valued that unstructured time. Okay, we were in the house. But still, we did walk home from school with a group of friends. But we walked home from school with no parents. It's staggering to me when I, drive by high schools and there's a line of cars of parents picking up their kids from high school. These kids are teenagers. The Public schools don't surprise me as much because of, increased security measures. There's got to be somebody to take the kid home. Yes, we live in a super paranoid society. It seems that the more monitoring technology we get, the more fear of stranger danger we get. Statistics do not move people on this. It's but if only one kid gets taken, right? Okay, fair. Fear's powerful. Which is why I'm telling you that as a teenager with a lot against me, the beginnings of CPTSD, even though I didn't know what it was because my dad was abusive, eating disorder by, the 8th grade. I passed out in a basketball practice. That's how they found out. Raging body image issues that every so often I get really stressed out now. They come back. Body dysmorphia is a thing for life. That's dysmorphia, not dysphoria. That's what trans kids get. But this unstructured time was essential. It gave me the chance to go, who am I when nobody's telling me what I am? And that was incredibly important. So if you want your kids off their phones or off your phone, let him go play without you hovering. That's what science says will work, because phones are freedom. Video games are freedom. There is this whole world that you can go in there and just mess around and nobody's going, you can't do that. You should be studying. Oh my God, kids cannot study all day. Parents, please, that is just leading to anxiety. Don't do that. Give your kid, your teen, a little unstructured time, at least at some part of the week. If they're one of those, stress hounds like me who, I had this, because the school was like, do your homework, 4 hours of homework a night. That was the regulations. It was, what was it? By the time I was in OAC, 2 hours of homework per subject per night. So if you had 4 classes, you had 8 hours of homework after school. Yeah, those were the guidelines. So my guideline is I am out of time. So these are ways to not mess up your teens anymore. If you've done it, don't worry. There's always time to turn it around. Actions speak louder than words. Setting an example matters more than any lecture you can give them. Own when you make a mistake. When you have to punish them, give them, when there have to be consequences, give them an on-ramp back to the freedom, back to the privilege. Trust me, it'll be better for everyone, because then you'll have less stress as a parent too. Parenting's hard, no lie. Questions, comments, any feedback, Liana at nottherapyshow.com. Nottherapyshow.com is my website. At nottherapyshow is social media. Thanks for your time. Check out my socials. I will be in Sutton this weekend at the Link on Saturday starting at 11 a.m. for a free mental health event. It's on Dalton Road. Check it out. Until next time, your crazy is only a problem if it's hurting you. Talk soon.